Victor, are we still waiting?
We're able to hear YouTube, but for some reason the public hangout still can't hear us.
Okay.
So you could proceed because the public can hear through YouTube, and there's only one person in the public hangout, but they can't hear from the public hangout. But they can from YouTube, still publicly accessible.
Could we ask the person on the public hangout to go to the YouTube?
Mm-mm.
All right. So sounds like folks are listening on the YouTube channel and not in the public hangout. So we will proceed then. So Summer, the public comment is on a non-agenda item that you received an email on. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you want to read that for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
I received this today stating public speaking at board meeting from Carrie O'Keefe. Please share the following with the board this evening. I believe I speak for most of the staff, both of those who were laid off and those who are continuing with OG, when I questioned how layoff decisions were executed. There was no consistency or congruent motion as to how the decision was made. It would be very understandable if tutors, non-credentialed teachers, or newest hires were let go first. It would also make sense if those closest to retirement or those with highest salaries were let go first. However, this does not seem to be the case. Deb Willems let me know that Laura Ciervo and Valerie McCormick were to have no influence in the laying off process. Candy Owens let me know that Meg Ridman never took salaries into consideration. So if the layoff is not a reflection of our job performance, how then was the decision made? Meg Ridman had never met us. She does not know us. Without an obvious pattern, without a consistent, congruent connection in the letting go process, it leaves most of us wondering and hypothesizing. It is also unsettling when I have requested a letter of recommendation from my LC director, Janae Gutierrez, and have received no response. Again, if this decision was consistent and straightforward, there would not have been so many questions left unanswered. Was the decision made based on anyone who had a voice and questioned administration last year? Please justify the reasoning and decisions made for specific teachers being laid off. I ask this for all of us who cannot understand how we were chosen to lead first, and I ask this for all the remaining staff left with no sense of job security.
Okay, thank you, Summer. So if that's the end of public comment, then we'll transition to the reports. Meg, we'll start off with the executive director's report.
Great. This should be a relatively brief report tonight, but just to update you on a few things. I just want to ask the newest board members, Hank and Jackie, to be on the lookout for Form 700s coming your way soon. That's something that's required of board members when they first join the board and then on an annual basis. So I will be sending you some information about that. I also just wanted to update you about our the form that we approved at the last meeting that was required by the county in order to be able to access funds from the Treasury. We did it by DocuSign because of the current situation with the teleconference meetings. The county did temporarily accept that DocuSign document, but they are requiring that we follow up with original signatures. So I'm going to work out a plan where we get that form around to have everybody sign it. So we'll figure that out in the near future.
Okay.
But I was very happy that it worked, and we got the money from the Treasury in time to make payroll. That was exciting.
Yes.
An update about back to school. We did have a workshop yesterday with the leadership team, the directors and some of the district office staff. We had a trainer come in from she has a company where she does these kinds of workshops. And overall, I think it went really well. It was very well received, I believe, by most of everybody. It seemed to be fairly engaged in the morning. It was a 3-hour workshop, on a Zoom, which is not necessarily the most ideal way to do sort of a bonding and team building experience, but she made it work quite well. And I think we were all, very participatory and gave it our all. And we are bringing her back again tomorrow morning to meet with the entire staff to do some additional activities for the whole staff. So we're looking forward to that. And then in between yesterday and tomorrow, today we had our first all staff meeting for the school year. So that was fun for me to get to start to put some faces to the names of the teachers and the counselors, all the family support coordinator, everybody. And again, it was a pretty intensive morning with 3 hours of meeting time, but we covered a lot of ground, and that was good. And then, like I said, tomorrow morning we're doing some of the more team building activities, and then there's additional staff meeting time in the afternoon. And then we kick off school on Thursday, and then orientation sessions for the students and initial teacher-student meetings are, Friday into the middle of next week and on. So we're really off and running, and that's very exciting. It's been a lot of work to get here, but we're just about there. Just a few words about facilities, just a couple updates. We did go ahead and key and change all the alarm codes at all the locations. It seemed like a good time to do that and just to get everything straightened out to make sure we know, who has which keys and where they all The only other specific things to update about a particular learning center would be about Lompoc. We have started the CTE build in the expansion space that we've taken on. But unfortunately, there was some problem. There was an issue with the size of some parts or pieces of something that was sent by a vendor, but the issue is being resolved and will be, put right. But it's not a high priority or a rush because that we're not going back to the in-person learning for the time being. So the other thing of note, the other thing of note is that for our San Luis Obispo site, our center there, we had signed an agreement a year or so ago to take on some additional space up there. That was, we were going to take it on once the tenant moved out, and then we could move in, and it's taken a year. The tenant, I don't even know if they're out yet, but in the meantime, we actually don't need the expansion space. So at this point, the landlord is working with us, and he is starting to market that space to try to find another tenant so we can be released from that agreement. And I just want to put another call out there for the CSDC virtual conference for the board members that wish to attend. If you wish to go, just let me know. Hank is joining me, and I'll be going. So I'm going to complete that registration here probably before the end of this week. So if you let me know tonight by email or text or whatever, that would be great if you're interested in attending. And that's going to wrap it up for me at this moment.
Can you remind us again what day that is?
Sure.
If you can, I can go look. I just thought maybe.
It is the 26th to the 29th
Okay.
of October.
Oh, okay.
And again, it's virtual, so I'm not exactly sure how they're working the schedule, but it looks like they're trying to keep a similar format, that they're going to have whole group sessions and then breakout sessions over the course of most of those days. So yeah, so let me know if you would like to participate in that.
Okay. Thanks, Meg. Any questions or follow-up questions for Meg? All right. So board members, does anybody have anything that they want to report on? Okay. So I just had a couple things, just wanted to address, we did have to, that we are capped at our student enrollment this year, which will put a cap essentially on the funding that's coming in. And so as a result of that, even though we worked with our back office to look at the balancing the budget and determining the best way to go forward, we did have to make some tough decisions and let a few teachers go. But we're really hoping that the state situation will improve and that funding cap decision will be reversed, and the enrollment cap will be reversed, and then the funding situation will improve, and we can be able to service more students that are coming to us wanting to enroll at Olive Grove, and then bring those teachers back on board. So I appreciate the difficult decision that had to be made by the staff, and of course the difficult situation that it puts on all of our current teachers, and of course those who are no longer with us as we move forward for the year. So just wanted to acknowledge that how difficult it is really for everybody, and it's not something that we wanted to do. But unfortunately, with the budget situation going forward for the 2020-2021 school year, we had to right size the staff to go along with the funding allocation. So hopefully we can get that, resolved and turn around and get back to the right where we want to be with staffing and bring back those fabulous educators that we had on staff. So that's all I wanted to report on. Is there a financial report?
There is. Kristen's here from CSMC, and I am going to share, it's in your board packet, but I'm going to share the report that she's going over just to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page, so to speak.
Thanks, Meg. So kind of backing on what Deb said, I did want to let the board know that in looking at some of the difficult decisions that needed to be made, we are going to be moving into this 2021 school year in a balanced budget position. So while I know the decisions were very thoughtful and deliberate and difficult, they are going to turn around the situation that we find ourselves ending this 19-20 school year in. So we haven't yet closed the books on June. There's a lot that goes into that year-end close. So what I wanted to do, because next month we'll be reporting on our final position, I wanted to sort of get the board up to speed and show you the last close month, which was May, so that you can see the trajectory of where we will be finishing the year. And spoiler alert, I'm going to cut to the chase. We're looking at a deficit position between $1.3 and $1.4 million for 19-20 school year. So obviously that is a very substantial and serious financial position that we find ourselves in, and that is why the difficult decisions were necessary. So Meg and I and Mari, we met and we talked about how we really want to be super transparent and really giving the board more information than probably you want. But what I want to do here is each month we'll be going through the financials when you have a board meeting. And so this is as of May 31st, 2020, and we were about 92% of the way through the year. Our actual revenues came in just at about 7.5 million against budgeted of about 0.5 million. Really, that's based on the timing of receipt of our revenues. We do anticipate that we would be receiving all that we had budgeted for the year from a revenue perspective. We really do start to catch up on those receipt of funds in May and into June. So when we close out the books and we report out next month, you'll see our revenues coming in. Now, on the right-hand side with the burgundy, you will see there that our actual personnel expenses and our operational expenses add up to that $8.5 million. So you can see right there, we've already, spent about $1 million more than we have received. So Meg, if you would go to the next slide, pretty please, we can look at some of the details in that. I know this one's a little bit tough, but as you can see, we talked about our revenues and we are about $1 million behind, but that's timing. And then our personnel expenses came in at about 5.4 million, our operational expenses about 3 million, so total about 8.5. So as of May 31st, taking the revenue, just less those expenses, the school has an actual net deficit position of 1.051 million. We've budgeted to complete the year, as I said, in a deficit position between 1.3 and 1.4 million dollars. So there was a budget revision that was done in the spring, and I do believe that was, a conversation that my boss and predecessor Scott Warner shared with you all. So hopefully that is not a surprise, the position we're in. And I know we talked about it last month and why we felt the need to make the changes that we made. Are there any questions on revenue and expenses before I move into the balance sheet items?
Do we keep in our budget, are we required to have a certain percentage funding in reserve?
Yes, Hank, that's an excellent question. We are required to have about a 5% of our total revenue in reserve, and that is one of the data points that we're striving to reach through some of the payroll reductions for 2021. Clearly, we are not making it and didn't make it for 19-20, which is why we are where we are. But yes, we like to see about a 5% revenue reserve requirement. Good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move to balance sheet? Okay, Meg, would you mind scrolling down, please? All right, so really what we're looking at here is that we have a little bit over $2 million in net assets. You'll see our current assets, our cash, some of our fixed assets that include some of that computer and obviously the transportation equipment, those vans or cars that were purchased. So those stay on our books. Could you scroll down, please, Meg? We'll talk about liabilities. So, you know, gotta love a balance sheet. It always balances. So where there's assets, there's liabilities. So we have about $753,000 in current liabilities. We don't have any long-term liabilities, but we do hold a certain amount. You'll see that $436,000 in restricted net assets. That's a fancy way of saying that we have received money that is specific to a certain spend. So we have a classified employee professional development grant that has a small balance there. And that grant is intended to provide professional development and training opportunities for some of our classified staff. So if we were to do CPR training, or if we got a new security system and some of our classified staff need to be trained, it's specific to that. It doesn't have any expiration date, so we keep that on our balance sheet and we release it as we use it, but it was a one-time grant. Happy to have it, but that's a small portion of that. And then we have a low-performing student block grant that is about $14,000 of that. And then we do have that, this is so hard, this acronym for me to say, I don't know why, PCSGP grant. I don't know, too many alphabet letters in there. And that is the largest component of that. That's about $420,000. So when you see that restricted net asset, it just means we have received those funds and they're for a really specific need, and we track to them and we release them as we use those funds. So total liabilities and net assets as of May 31st are $2.021 million, with that net income of, you know, a deficit position of $1.051 million. So next month, I'll be able to report out on our unaudited actual results, our UARs, which will also be reflective of those June 30th close. And as I said, we're looking, you know, between a $1.3 and a $1.4 million deficit. We're not surprised by that. It is what it is. But with the steps that have been taken and with some thoughtful and careful management going forward, we do anticipate being in a positive surplus position, and we will go through and report also next month on that revised operating budget, so the board can take a look at the true reflection of what we think the year will look like with the changes that have been made. So I know it's a lot of information, but are there any questions for me on this? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Seeing that there's no other reports on today's agenda, is that correct? I want to pause to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is to approve the consent agenda, which is the meeting minutes from our last meeting on July 28th. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
And Summer, can you take us through, or is there any discussion? Anything we need to pull off the consent agenda? All right, Summer, can you take us through the vote?
I can.
Thank you.
Okay. Deb Willems,
Yes?
Parisa Brown,
Aye.
Hank Galena,
Aye.
Jackie Height,
Aye.
Lisa Morales.
Yes.
All right, passes 5-0.
Thank you. So the next agenda item is approval to hold consent. So I'll make the motion. So I make the motion to approve to hold consent the salary levels from the 2019-2020 school year freezing the salary schedule for 2020, 2021. Is there a second?
I second.
Who wants it? Lisa or Parisa?
I heard Jackie on there. Let's get Jackie. That's a new name on.
We'll get Jackie.
All right. So Meg, I'll open it up to you to present us the information on this.
Thank you. First, I apologize for the sort of difficult wording with the item. I struggled with how to phrase it exactly. I struggled to even have to put it on here, to be honest, but the phrasing was difficult. You know, as we've discussed, our current budgetary situation just absolutely dictates that we freeze the salary schedule. So in essence, what this means is that no staff member will advance a step or move over a column for the coming school year. Everyone's placement on the salary schedule will remain the same as it was for last school year. I just want to point out that the resolution the board passed at the last meeting concerning measures to address the ongoing impact of COVID actually would have given me the authority to make this decision without board approval, but in the interest of transparency and full disclosure and to get your input and guidance as necessary, I just, it's preferable that the board take action to approve such a measure. So I would recommend, regretfully, that you approve this action.
Okay. Any questions or other discussion from the board?
No,
Do we know how many teachers will be impacted by this?
All of them.
Well, do we know how many we're expecting to go to another level that?
Well, they would have all moved a step on the schedule to a new for the year of service.
Mm-hmm.
I can gather the data to let you know about how many would have moved a column. I don't know that information. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then, of course, if, a miracle happens and the budget situation does improve, then we would look at being able to reverse this, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we can reverse it and make it right as soon as we possibly can.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, Summer, take us to a vote.
All right. Deb Willems,
Yes.
Parisa Brown,
Aye.
Hankalina,
aye.
Jackie Height,
Yes.
Lisa Morales.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. So I think the next item is the closed session. Is that, or do we want to have a discussion over new business and future agenda items? Help me out here. Meg, can you help me out here?
Oh, yeah, that would just be if there was anything that the board wanted to put on a future agenda item. So if there's something that somebody wants to direct me to bring back to the board. But if there's nothing, then there would be no discussion.
Okay. Anything from anyone that we know we wanted to discuss? In 2 weeks. All right. In that case, we will move over to the closed session. So board members, if you could hop on that other call, and if you're on the video, make sure you mute your microphone or hang up, and then we can dial back into this number.
Thank you,
All right.
Kristen.
Thank you. Bye.